Welcome and good afternoon. Thank you all for joining the WISP Friendly Fiber Aerial over Burial with LiteLinx. Presenting from Winncom Technologies, our fiber product manager is Alex Cernick, and VP of Sales from LiteLinx is Alec Freilichman. Alex and Alex, it shouldn't get confusing at all.
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to add them into the chat and they'll be addressed at the end of the webinar. So let's go ahead and kick off the discussion with Alex.
Thank you, Don. Welcome everybody. I'm Alex F. with LiteLinx. We will try to keep it. At least I'll speak with accent, so you guys will be able to figure out who's talking. So Alex, I have a question for you. What are the key factors Winncom customers are considering when they are choosing between burial or aerial fiber?
Thank you, Alex. And yeah, I'm sure this won't get confusing going back and forth. But I'd say it starts with the customer's needs. So customer type, application, and deployment locations, they all play a very pivotal role in choosing the right solutions. Now, considerations like primary use, estimated distances, they also factor in. Now, will it be last mile, middle mile, data center, fiber to the home? As an example, fiber optic aerial cables, they typically leverage existing infrastructure. So if you have ready access to utility poles, to towers, or other above ground structures, aerial makes sense. It's also the least costly from a CAPEX perspective. Now, if you're a rural electric cooperative, if you're a telephone cooperative, a tribe, aerial cable makes sense. Now, if you're a WISP, it might not be as simple. In that scenario, you'll have to create an ongoing leasing relationship, make a ready pole attachment agreement with your local provider. Now, before getting access to existing infrastructure, you'll have to provide a deployment plan, a POC, and then enter an agreement. And those details vary, and you'll be responsible for costs associated to establishing that new infrastructure and that fiber equipment. Now, other costs, other considerations for deployment can be things like natural terrain, environmental factors. Existing infrastructure also plays a pivotal role in deciding between aerial and burial deployments. Factors like weather conditions, terrain type, urban versus rural locations significantly can impact the choice. So buried fiber deployments, for an example, are immune to wind and ice damage. Now, it makes them more reliable than aerial, especially if you're deploying in a poor weather environment. Now, on the other side, aerial is more suitable with existing pole networks or rural environments without urban restrictions. Now, however, buried fiber as well has some trade-offs, and cables need to be buried deep in the ground to protect from accidental damage. My example would be Sunday night, someone gets drunk on a backhoe and cuts the fiber. Now, again, there's value of having it deep in the ground, but you do have that trade-off being if something happens to it, it is very expensive to replace. And then cost comparison. While aerial installations generally have a lower initial cost compared to the buried counterpart, there are some long-term expenses and maintenance to consider. Now, the key thing here is a cost analysis should be done before deployment and to include factors like material expenses, labor costs, leasing contracts, especially if you're on the WISP side of the house, and equipment requirements. And then the last aspect here is cable types. So fiber optic cables used in aerial and burial deployments, they do vary, and they vary based on applications, and they do vary based on environmental conditions. So an understanding the differences in those cable types is critical for the network success and the network expansion. And that's where Winncom and LiteLinx can truly come in and help with a consultation and a guidance. So that kind of tees me up for a question I have for Alex, is in regards to the aerial fiber deployments. Can you walk through that at a more granular level?
So, yeah, on the aerial side, you generally deal with the cost. Aerial deployments are significantly less expensive than burial. That being said, it comes with several caveats. So obviously, cost is, as I mentioned, significantly less expensive. Installation, quite a bit easier without specialized equipment. So you can cover many more feet or miles per day. So architecturally, not just architecture, from just pure theological perspective, which one you're going? Aerial can cover more customers quicker. Now, that being said, durability of the network is an issue. What I mean by durability, you have exposed cables on the to the in the environment. You've got weather, you've got foliage, you've got rodents. You may also have some natural disasters, and then you've got potentially drunk drivers. You got shotguns. So those cables are exposed to elements. Now, maintenance is another thing that aerial cable gives you a very strong advantage. It's much easier to maintain. You just roll the truck. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it, but you roll the truck, cables in front of you, can be taken care without major surgery. And then there is a caveat that's related to environmental and community. So some communities do not like exposed cable. So and they require everything to be hidden from eyes. So there may be nuances related to environmental challenges with specific to the municipality, where they don't want things out, or they do want things out. But they don't let you touch the ground. So those factors do play a big role in choosing the right type of fiber deployment for the right community. Often we also see that same network may have both deployment topologies, and aerial and burial where it's proper. But one of the major driving factors out of all of them is really the cost. Aerial comes out to be quite a bit significantly less expensive, and often budgetary constraints will drive that decision for a particular ISP or a network.
Excellent, thank you. So I want to just quickly add on to that. For aerial cable, there's primarily two different methods of deployment. So if you guys reference this screen on the left side of this, you'll see the first application being ADSS cable installation. Say that 3 times fast. Now, that's an all dielectric self-supporting cable. It's a fiber optic cable that's strong enough to support itself between structures without having a conductive metal component. It's really easy to install. It has a lower hardware cost, and the installation method that I'm showcasing here is called a drive-off method. The application to the right of this is called a lashing wire deployment. Now, aerial lashing wire acts as kind of like a support structure for aerial cables. The cable lash wire works in conjunction with a lasher and can help ease of installation. It also drives lower hardware costs. But the key thing here is it helps reduce maintenance requirements by increasing the overall lifespan of your network deployment. I alluded to this previously, but part of Winncom and LiteLinx value is through consultation. There are a lot of aspects that happen with fiber cable. Not only picking the right cable and choosing the application, once you get to that aspect, you'll see cable type. There are, in this example, 4 different variations of cables for an aerial. It could be ADSS, as we said before, was that self-supporting. You could have a figure 8, you could have a lashing, you can have OPGY cable. There's other examples here. But what we can do is, working in conjunction and with yourself, we can help pick the right attributes. What is the number of fiber cores that's required? Is it 12 up to 144? What's the type of optical fiber? What is the span distance associated to this? Is there a short-term terminal tension? Is there a requirement on jacket material? And this is just a subset of the many attributes associated to it. So again, working together through consultation, we can help you not only choose the right cable, but choose the cable that allows you to support your network of today and the network of tomorrow. So Alex, we talked a lot about aerial cable. Can you walk us through what are some pros, some cons, and some cost considerations our customers should think about when using or considering burial fiber?
So on the burial fiber, the concept is you can go with Buick, you can go with Cadillac, or you can go with Ferrari. So on the Buick side, you generally choose direct burial armor cable. Then you move into more luxurious options, and that would be when you're going to be blowing cable into the conduits. And then the most expensive one is the air blown, where you build the conduit system and then you just blow the cable through it. So so each one of these methodologies or methods has its own benefits and obviously disadvantages. So obviously everything, whatever goes underground, aesthetics is like you don't see it, it's not exposed. So now automatically cable also gets protected from the external elements. Now, is this forever? No. There may be some kind of an excavation that's maybe happening in the area and cable can get damaged. There may be some nuances related to other factors that can cause damage within the conduit, but probability of those is much longer, much lower, which basically means typically cable has longer lifespan than the aerial applications. Now, what you have to keep in mind is obviously accessibility. If something happens, now it's a major surgery to address that. So it does also take much longer to deploy. To deploy underground network. So those things have to come in a consideration when you are building a network and or rather designing the network to understand what is the best method to deploy the fiber. It may be going through a rock, and suddenly your costs just becomes too high to drill through the rock. So you're gonna have to come up with other ways to work around this area. So, but again, boils down to your professional services that you offer. Those questions will be answered and presented as a business case at the time of the design. I do probably have another question for you, Alex. So so when Winncom is assisting customers with various deployments, various deployment topologies. How what is the math behind? What is the algorithms that make you choose the type of deployment for the correct topology? How walk us through this?
Sure. So I'd say from a general answer, landscape dictates suitability for buried or aerial deployments. Factors like soil type, rockiness, elevation, it all influences the decisions, along with infrastructure requirements. So if the terrain's rocky, for example, it won't be cost effective to put poles in the ground or to carry air or cable. Now, if the sandy soil in this example, it's a lot easier to manipulate. Sandy soil, you can use an excavation process by hand. It's easier to create flat bottom trenches, and it makes soil perfect for cabling, direct burial, and for duct solutions. Another example would be in urban settings. It makes the most amount of sense to use existing infrastructure whenever possible. For example, drilling into asphalt or tarmac, it could be 10x more expensive than plowing or doing shallow trenching. So again, the first component of this is terrain considerations. I'd also say the second component of this would be climate and disaster preparedness. So kind of balancing fiber deployments with climate vulnerability, I'd say, is absolutely critical. So deploying buried fiber in hurricane-prone areas or aerial fiber in flood-prone regions would be a great example of kind of aligning around a disaster mitigation strategy. So from a LiteLinx perspective, how does LiteLinx guide customers in choosing the right type of solution?
Yeah, so this is a good question. So for us, we offer pretty much most of the cable types that are available, except maybe specialty cables such as maybe submarine, for example, as an example. For us, for normal people, we got aerials, we've got the undergrounds, we've got the armor jacket, single, dual. We got obviously the ADSS, and you mentioned about the ADSS, and what's interesting is often you see ADS. So originally ADSS was meant to be deployed in the supply zone of the electrical pole, which is great, right? But often ADSS is also being used in the communication zone just because people like it. It's easier to deploy. It's self-supporting. You don't have to worry about the grounds. The other thing, there may be interesting, nice benefits that come with that. So we got that. We do have a anti-rodent flavor of a cable, which basically has some kind of a material as one of the layers where when squirrels bite into it, it just does not feel nice to them, so they just stop biting. They don't bite any further than that. So we also have several options for a drop cable. The most common one in North America is a flat drop, but we do have bend resistance and so on. So in some instances, there's going to be a unique specification that is being provided by an engineering firm. That cable has to have certain characteristics, and we can look at it and work at that and build the cable based on specification. Most of the cable is built with the D glass, but sometimes you'll get an inquiry where a customer wants an A1 for whatever the reason. And I don't know how many people know, but generally the common misperception about glass type is you think that the more expensive glass has lower attenuation. No, attenuation is the same. It's about 0.36 dB per kilometer, something like that. But the A1 versus D, you're talking about band radius from 30 millimeters to 10. So now that's why generally for outdoor deployments, you don't see A glass being deployed just because I mean, the cable you cannot bend it in 10 millimeters. The cable is just too thick and too many layers. But for an indoor deployments or outdoor-indoor hybrid deployments, A1 may be something that's needed. So in some instances, we will have people will prefer gel, some people gel-free. So we will work closely with engineering firm, and if we feel that there is some kind of a red flag within the specification, something does not make sense, we're obviously going to bring it back to the group and understand, is this meant by design or someone missed something and it needs to be addressed and reconsidered. Because what we don't want to do, we don't want to start shipping spools of cable back and forth. Those are not as small boxes.
That makes perfect sense. And that's quite honestly one of the things I like most about LiteLinx. And one of the reasons why Winncom is distributing them is you have extremely cost-effective solutions that are high quality. And then you're looking at either project-based opportunities or something that can even be more specialized with unique requirements. So you have a little bit of something for each one of these types of customer requests.
Yep. Well, I guess what's interesting, Alex, worth mentioning is besides the cable, there are other pieces to the puzzle, to the network. There is various kinds of enclosures. So from aerial terminals to MSTs to FOSs, we also offer that as part of our solution. Each one is designed by us, has some unique elements where we feel is better for the application or easier to use or gives better protection. We also build OLT cabinets, fiber distribution hubs, the FDH, and those can come in various flavors and configurations, pre-terminated, not pre-terminated, and so on. So, so the way that we look at LiteLinx, it's not just let's sell cable, it's let's offer a solution that makes sense, that is cost effective. Many of us come from traditional wireless world, where we've been working in WISP industry for 20 years. Some people more, some people less, but about 20 years. So that means that for us, customer experience is probably one of the more important criteria. We want to make sure that customers are taken care. If support is needed, it's provided. It's not sent to we're not showing back to our customers. We want to make sure that product works, fits the application, and customer can come back and purchase more.
No, I think that's well said. So one of the things I wanted to leave off with, I know we're coming to the end of our time, is we talked a lot about fiber in particular and the different applications and product types associated to aerial and barrel deployments. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about BEAD. And BEAD's one of the largest drivers for upcoming fiber deployments. For those of you who are familiar with Winncom, Winncom is a value-added distributor. We've been doing this for a very long time. We've created a dedicated BEAD team that's available to help. And what this slide showcases, and I want to talk about an analogy. So let's say a coin, and our strategy for BEAD is twofold. So on one side of the coin, it's working with our suppliers, LiteLinx, and identifying who's eligible for BEAD funding on the supplier perspective. If it is active fiber or passive fiber or fiber adjacent accessories, it needs to be built in the United States with 55% of components being derived from here. If it's a fixed wireless access product, which they're deeming electronics, it can be manufactured in other countries, excluding China, but that gives access to technologies like CBRS, like licensed microwave, like millimeter wave. So the first part of our strategy is pulling together this eco center of approved and eligible suppliers. So from soup to nuts, or from the A to Z, our goal there is to be able to provide a complete deployment recommendation. And then leveraging our in-house capabilities, we have the ability to do design and engineering across the board. Now, we added some enhancements to this, our services, and I'll talk about them real quickly. One of the main questions, and this is the other side of the coin, I get, is on offensive and defensive strategies. How do we start? How do we determine if we're eligible for BEAD funding, if our area is served or underserved? What is the 80% funding locations look like in my territory for complete grant coverage? So one of the things we did is we created a cohesive program that allowed us access to NTIA and FCC databases, but essentially allows us to look at a national database. We call it a HEX database. So we can look at individual counties, we can drill down to see what is served, underserved, and then leveraging this, we can create vectors, export Z files, overlay them on Google Earth with your asset locations, and we can help you both from a fiber and from a wireless perspective of being able to determine, should I look at a defensive challenge, or do I need to look into building out this county as an offensive strategy? And Winncom is here to help you through that process. In addition to that, we added some other enhancements. One of those would be grant writing services. So we can work with your financial team or your third-party CPA firm. We can pull your financials. We can then take that information and start creating a narrative for your application. We'll combine that with the application design drawings. We'll then submit the application on your behalf, answer any questions that do come up, and then we have a pretty dedicated post-award compliancy to make sure that when you win these grants, the money isn't getting clawed back. In addition to that, we have third-party professional engineering services. So simply, you need a PE stamp drawing for everything. We have that at a SKU level for you. We also have the ability to put boots on the ground in 50 states. So if you need high-level or low-level fiber designs, GIS mapping, we have that ability to offer that turnkey type of experience. And again, all this is about simplifying BEAD. A lot of people use the word demystifying, but we're just here to make it simple, to make it easy, to have the right eco-center of partners, to have the right solutions, and then we tie this into a financial service where we could help you lease over a 3-year period the non-tangibles. So to reduce the CAPEX expenditure for grant writing or professional engineering. And then there is a prepayment option. And think of this as a lever to pull. There's a 25% grant match requirement that gets reduced for prepayment. Again, we have a way with our leasing partner to carry that over 5 years. So again, it can help make that decision. What's the most cost-effective way of doing this? But again, takeaways from this is Winncom is in your corner. We're here to help in any way possible, be it BEAD or for your fiber needs. So I'll conclude this.
And I think, Alex, if I could,
go ahead. Of course, go ahead.
If I could add to your comment is, and lesson learned from actually RDOF, what many if you follow the RDOF situation, and I'm speaking to the group right now, you see many RDOF winners today are looking to either default or have some kind of way an exit before completing the project. Why? Well, one of the ways they underestimated the cost. But second way is the sheer magnitude, the amount of work that it takes to run a bigger network. And what you did not mention is all the professional services that Winncom is offering in the pre-sale and post-sale support.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I've included 3 different hyperlinks here. The first one is our bead portal. This is behind a password. So again, all you need to do is put your email address in, create your username, and then we'll approve that within a couple of hours. That gives you access to everything I've talked about. And then we even went a little bit further on a state level, and we created a repository for all 50 states. Where are we in the process? Where is the volume 1, the volume 2, the 5-year plan? How do you do your challenge process? All that's listed there. We have a fiber solution page that talks about this fiber solution, fiber adjacent accessories at a higher level. It allows you to drill down into individual products. And then the last thing I'd like to talk about is our vendor page with LiteLinx. Starts with a nice little video talking about their value, and then you can get into their different product selections. And then we showed a couple of them in the 2 of the slides here today. So I know we are coming to the end of our time here. Are there any questions?
Sure, we have 4 questions. So we can start with the first one. We are considering applying for BEAD funding. My state also has a fiber technology preference. How can Winncom help me?
Okay, that's a good question, and it played into the BEAD conversation we had a couple of minutes ago. I'd say it starts with a consultation. So I would suggest just put your information into the chat. We'll certainly reach out to you. Each one of these is a little bit different based on your customer type, your requirements, if it's offensive or defensive, but we can sit there and we can put together a strategy that makes sense for you. And again, we have a lot of inherent programs here that I believe would really help.
Wonderful. Second question, why would I choose gel filled over dry tube?
I'm gonna let out.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
yep, you're back.
All right, sorry. I talking about bringing broadband to rural communities of the United States. Internet is not perfect everywhere. We still have lots of miles to cover. Okay, so the gel. This gel or dry has been going on for quite a long time. If we speak in terms of which technology is better, gel is better. However, it's also messier. So fiber engineers usually prefer dry technology just because you don't have to deal with gel, you don't have to clean up. The job is nicer and easier. But if deployment is in some extreme environments where and specifically exposed to moisture, gel will have an advantage. So in those situations, you would want to steer conversation towards gel field, even though it's messier, but long term it's a better technology for the fiber.
I was just gonna say I'm team gel, but his answer is much better.
All right, well, what types of glass are available?
All of them. So we've got the Ds, we've got the A1s, A2s. It's really going to depend on the specification and requirements from a customer. Most of the outdoor networks do deploy D glass. In some instances, we may have an inquiry where they want to use specific glass, let's say by Corning. Okay, we can build a cable with cornering glass inside if this is the requirement. But generally, all of our cables comply with meet or exceed ITU standards, so you get exactly the same performance from the cable.
Perfect. All right, last question being asked. Do you also offer a ribbon cable?
Yes. For high density applications, ribbon is often it's necessary. If that's the only way you can fit so many fibers in small space. But there are fiber technicians who do like ribbon just because when you're splicing a ribbon, you can do 12 splices in one sitting, in one process. So makes things a lot faster. So yes, a ribbon is available. In some instances, ribbon is the only option, depending on the how many counts. Usually, once you exceed the 400, 500 count, it only comes in ribbon.
Great. Any last words?
I'll let you take it.
Go fiber.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alex. This has been a great webinar on aerial over burial deployments.